It is now 7 o'clock, and I am reconvening to open session and calling to order the regular Board of Education meeting for Indian Prairie School District 204 on Monday, October 16th, 2023. Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Donahue?
Here.
Mr. Rising?
Here.
Mr. Karubas?
Here.
Ms. Gentz?
Here.
Ms. Deming?
Present.
Ms. Jane?
Here.
Ms. Fosdick?
Here.
We have a quorum. Ms. Gentz, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's see, we have several board salutes. Mr. Rising.
Mattia Valley Girls Golf Team are regional champions. The board salutes the Mattia Valley Girls Golf Team for winning regionals on September 28th at the Sycamore Golf Club. This is the first time in the school's history that the girls golf team won regionals. Congratulations on a great season.
Ms. Deming.
Waubonsie Valley students recognized for All-State Show Choir. The board salutes Waubonsie Valley sophomore Defna Ektoglor, juniors Eloise DeLang, Ryan Mitchell, and Ishari Ria Nagpudi, and seniors Jocelyn Atmiski, Mike Liazo, Justin Tan, and Justin Toledo, who auditioned and placed in the top 50 in the state by the Illinois chapter of the American Choral Directors Association. Students submitted their performance videos, of which the choreography was taught via video tutorial, along with others from students of competitive show choir programs from across the state. Congratulations to the students involved.
Ms. Gentz.
Neuqua and Waubonsie Valley girls golf teams advanced to state. The board salutes the Neuqua and Waubonsie Valley girls golf teams for advancing to the state finals, which took place on Friday and Saturday, October 6th and 7th, at the Hickory Point Golf Course in Decatur. This is the third straight trip to state for Neuqua Valley and a first time in nearly a decade for Waubonsie Valley. Congratulations to both teams.
Ms. Jane.
Mattia Valley Seniors achieves rank of Eagle Scout. The board salutes Mattia Valley Senior Owen Simpkins for achieving the rank of Eagle Scout, the highest advancement rank in scouting. Owen constructed 15 wood duck nesting boxes for Shabona State Park, Knocknolls Nature Center, and Ducks Unlimited for his Eagle Scout service project. Congratulations to Owen on achieving the prestigious rank of Eagle Scout.
Ms. Fosdick.
District 204 students inducted into the Tri-M Music Honor Society. The board salutes the 356 District 204 high school music students who were inducted into the Tri-M National Music Honor Society. Mattia Valley had 208 students, Neuqua Valley had 85 students, and Waubonsie Valley had 63 students. Tri-M is a National Music Honor Society that is open to 9th through 12th grade students each year. Students must be active members of their school music program and meet GPA requirements to be admitted. During the year, participating students provide a tremendous amount of service through various activities, such as ushering at all Indian Prairie School District concerts, set up for major concerts and festivals, fundraise for various charities, and visit local retirement facilities to provide music and memory experiences for our senior citizens. Congratulations to these music students for this stellar achievement.
So let's offer congratulations to all. Next up is our student representative report by Anna Buckenauer from Waubonsie Valley. Hey, Anna.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name's Anna Buckenauer, and I'm here today to represent Waubonsie Valley High School. As a Warrior, I'm proud to report that our Waubonsie community continues to thrive and provide many outstanding experiences to our students. In regard to clubs and activities, our clubs and activities are just starting out. This year, so far, we have 64 clubs that will be offering students opportunities. Some of our biggest clubs are DECA and BPA, each with around 140 members, as well as Model UN and Youth in Government with around 100 members each, followed by Science Olympiad with 90 members. Not to mention the large spectrum of clubs with everything from gaming club to SAT prep and even animal welfare warriors. In terms of athletics, the Waubonsee Valley fall athletic seasons are slowly approaching the conclusion of their respective seasons. This past weekend, our girls golf team competed in the IHSA state tournament and finished 7th in the state as a team. Our boys golf team completed their season, finishing 2nd in the highly competitive DVC. Senior Salil Kanduja captured his 4th straight individual IHSA regional championship. The IHSA State Series begins this week as our boys soccer team travels to Bolingbrook to take on the Raiders in regional action. Football travels to Naperville North this Friday night in hopes to clinch a playoff berth with a win over the Huskies. The girls volleyball program completes their regular season schedule this week. Their last home match will be on Thursday versus Naperville North. This past weekend, our girls and boys cross-country teams hosted the DVC conference meet. This weekend, both programs will compete in the IHSA regionals. The girls swim and dive program will compete in the DVC championships this weekend at Mattia. Lastly, the girls tennis program competed in the IHSA State Series, and junior Sophia Peranto and freshman Chloe Cochran advanced a doubles team to the state tournament. The winter season is right around the corner, with cheer and dance kicking off the winter season on Monday, October 23rd. All other winter sports will begin in the weeks after. We look forward to what the winter season has in store for all of our Warrior student athletes. Moving on to academics, Waubonsee Valley has begun the year with several strong academic achievements. This year, 18 students were recognized by National Merit as commended students, and 9 Warriors were named National Merit semifinalists. 8 students received the National African American Recognition Award, and 4 students received the National Hispanic Recognition Award. College Board has released score reports from the 2023 AP exam season, and it was another record-setting year for Waubonsee. 83% of AP students earned college credit by scoring a 3 or higher, and 324 students achieved the status of AP Scholar. Collectively, Waubonsee Valley earned silver status on the National AP Honor Roll. That's all for the Waubonsee Valley Board Report. Thank you, and as always, go Warriors.
Thank you. Okay, it is now time for public comment, and 60 minutes is allowed. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. When addressing the board, we ask that you respect the confidentiality and safety of our students and school district personnel. We also ask that those addressing the board be cognizant that this is an open meeting and is available to all age groups, and as such, ask that you consider who the audience members are this evening and keep comments age appropriate. Public comment represents the voice and opinion of the speaker. There will be no feedback from the board members during the meeting, but follow-up will be provided by an administrator as appropriate. Although this is not required, it is helpful for the board to know whether comments and concerns we hear are being raised by residents. So we ask that you state if you live in the district and if you currently have children in our schools. Tonight we have one speaker, and it's Alicia Smith. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Alicia Smith. I am a former student, Waubonsee and Gregory, former teacher, 3rd grade at Kendall, 2nd grade at Georgetown, and I live in the district. My niece and nephews attend Gombert. You can ask any parent what they would want for their child's school, and the answer would be the same. Whether privileged or marginalized, homeowner or renter, longtime resident or new to the area, if you ask a parent, they will say, I want my child to go to a good school. That is your number one priority as a school board member and as an administrator, to make sure that every child in your district is able to attend a good school. But you all are not doing the job that parents have asked of you. 204 schools have great teachers and a great community, but 4 204 schools are below the state average in state testing: Georgetown, Longwood, McCarty, and Fisher. You all created these conditions when you designed boundaries that gave these schools and Gombert low-income populations way above the district average. Naperville 203 has a similar low-income average to 204, yet they do not have a single school that falls below the state average in state testing. They also do not have a single school that has low-income populations doubled or tripled the district average. A family moving into Naperville 203 can choose any home or apartment and know that their child will go to a good school. In 204, whether or not your child goes to a good school depends on their zip code. It is not a privilege that all students get to experience. NEQA's niche rating is built on these inequities because not a single one of the district's title schools feed into NEQA. 204 has 2 school-wide title schools with such a high percentage of low-income students that they receive special federal funding. Longwood, which feeds into Metea, and Georgetown, which feeds into Waubonsie. Naperville 203 does not have a single school-wide title school. They do not create schools with such high concentrations of low income. The administration and school board created the boundaries that produce these inequities. We want equity for Georgetown, Longwood, McCarty, Gombert, and Fisher. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We now move to our consent agenda and superintendent report. We will start with the superintendent report. Dr. Talley.
Thank you, Ms. Donahue, members of the Board of Education and the Indian Prairie community. I will start my comments with sad news. Ms. Paula Mueller, a science teacher at Neuqua Valley, passed away on Monday, October 2nd. Ms. Mueller was a teacher for Indian Prairie for the last 24 years and taught all of those at Neuqua Valley. She was a vital member of the Wildcat community and will be missed by her students and staff. I ask that we take a moment of silence in honor of Paula's memory. Thank you. On Sunday, the board and I and hundreds more will be running or walking in the IPF annual 5K event. Some will be running the marathon. We have more than 290 people signed up to participate in the race. That number includes 38 students, which is almost 5 times as many as last year. Congratulations to our top 5 schools for fundraising. Those schools are as follows: Brookdale, Waubonsie, Prairie Children Preschool, Neuqua Valley, and Gombert Elementary School. We congratulate them on the hard work of raising the money, and they should be proud for being in the top 5. We recently held our annual coat drive, and I want to thank all who donated gently used coats and winter wear. Social workers from our schools attended the event and picked out coats, boots, Our President, I want to recognize 2 of our board members for receiving annual merit recognition from the Illinois Association of School Boards. Ms. Susan Deming and Mr. Mark Rising are receiving their annual merit recognition awards. This award is given to members who have achieved distinguished or legacy status who have earned 40 additional points each year. These points are given for attending division meetings, attending in-district workshops, or attending statewide or regional member workshops. And so I congratulate them both. Timmy? Congratulations. And I will now turn the meeting back over to Ms. Donahue.
All right, we now move to our consent agenda. I need a motion to approve consent agenda items D through L.
I move that the Board of Education approve consent agenda items D through L as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? Okay. Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Rising,
Yes.
Ms. Gentz,
Yes.
Mr. Karubas,
Yes.
Ms. Fosdick,
Yes.
Ms. Jane,
Yes.
Ms. Deming,
Aye.
and Ms. Donahue.
Yes. Motion passes. We now move to our action items. I need a motion and a second to approve the resolution recognizing October 2023 as National Principals Month as presented. Do you want to present it? Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Donahue. The role of principal has changed over the years. In the past, the principal was just the manager of a school. Today, the principal is an instructional leader who manages all aspects. He serves as mentor to teachers and students, serves as a connector to the parent community, works to ensure that the school environment is positive for students, staff, and parents. A myriad of decisions are made by the principal each day. The job is stressful, but it is a most rewarding job. So today I ask that the Board of Ed approve the proclamation that honors our principals during this week. And that proclamation reads as follows. Whereas school principals play an integral role in the education and growth of children in elementary, middle, and secondary schools across the state of Illinois, and whereas school principals are responsible for promoting education and building relationships with teachers and parents to ensure that each child receives equitable educational opportunities and services to reach their potential, and whereas a primary responsibility of the state of Illinois to preserve and improve resources for schools so that all students have access to quality education and a foundation for a successful future. And whereas the Illinois Principal Association, which represents over 6,200 educational leaders statewide, believes that learning is a lifelong process and that the education of our children is the highest priority. And whereas school leaders face many obstacles in supporting and educating our young people, and it is through their perseverance, passion, and hope-filled leadership that Illinois continues to produce quality, career-ready students. And whereas we must continue to encourage, support, and recognize our school principals who have a positive impact on Illinois students and the educational system in the land of Lincoln, therefore, I, J.B. Pritzker, Governor of the state of Illinois, do hereby proclaim the week of October 15th to the 21st, 2023 as Principals Week, and Friday, October 20, 2023 as Principal Day in Illinois to recognize principals and the Illinois Principal Association for all that they do and to help our children learn and succeed.
All right. Now I need a motion and a second to approve the resolution.
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution recognizing October 2023 as National Principals Month as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? I think the principals play an incredibly important role in the district, and we're incredibly thankful for their dedication and their love of our students and the nurturing environment that we strive to achieve that challenges everyone to do their best. So, all right, Michelle, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Jane,
Yes.
Ms. Deming,
Aye.
Mr. Karubas,
Yes.
Ms. Skins,
Yes.
Mr. Rising,
Yes.
Ms. Fosdick,
Yes.
and Ms. Donahue.
Yes, the motion passes. All right. We will now have a presentation from Rodney Mack, William Gray, and Brian Grinstead regarding technology services update.
Wow, your technology.
This is the test everybody gives us, just to make sure we know what we're doing. We'll switch this around, that's all right. Thank you, President Donahue, Dr. Talley, members of the board. This is our yearly fall update. This is the one we try to cover each year, accomplishments we did the last year and what work we have in front of us this year moving forward. I believe you guys all have copies of this, but again, as we go through, I always like to highlight the size of the department. It is 47 members, built into 4 different groups of people, 4 different teams. BJ oversees the server, the data, and the network team. Brian oversees the support team, so it's the larger team. He likes to point that out, even though it's only one. Is larger than all 3 put together. He does like to point that out, but again, those 4 teams really make up a lot of what we do every day and make sure that everything is working. Interesting facts each year. I always like to point this one out, just how much we maintain. I heard at one place that square footage of the district is the equivalent of the John Hancock building. Was that right? I always like to point that out. We have 140 servers with about 280 terabytes of data, which is the equivalent of managing 3.5 Netflix. Like the entire Netflix, not just, one fun show, the whole thing. Every episode, 40, 50 years of Sesame Street, all of that. That's how much data that we maintain in our servers, spread over in 3 different areas, from stored locally, in the cloud at Google, and in the cloud in Microsoft. So, some things that we had last year, none of this should be new. The wireless access project, which BJ will give an update on here in just a minute. We did push out 2-factor authentication. You were all a part of that we had to have 2-factor authentication put on. We did migrate the print center. Brian will be talking about a little bit about that. It's about 97% of all the jobs are now done in-house. We still send about 3% of the jobs, which sometimes some of the jobs are a little bit larger, to the Naperville 203 group that we worked with, but there still is a large cost savings there. We did have some big improvements that we put in with our security posturing. If you remember last year, we did the penetration testing. We updated some of that. We're not going to share everything publicly, but we've also made some other strategic changes internally to make sure that we closed any of those things that the penetration testing saw. We've also brought in some other services. Again, you remember CrowdStrike was a big ticket that we purchased a few years ago, which really gave us a sound foundation to stand on, but there are still some other layers. We were able to improve those. Last year, with the help of the instructional side, we moved department drives, which again used to be in-house, out to Google. What that really does, and that's just at the elementary and middle school level, what that really does is it allows us to remove the need for all the elementary staff and the middle school staff to need VPN access or access to call into the district, which again adds a huge security posturing. Removing that need for people to remote into the district and just connect via cloud. We did have another good year with synergy stability. Still say it's not everyone's favorite. We'll talk about that here in just a minute, but we also added some modules. We added the analytics module last year, which we are continuing to work on this year. But we did not have any issues with the rollout of any of those modules. Synergy, again, worked, never had downtime. We had one hiccup at around report card time, but it ended up being a little bit, about an 80-20 human error compared to it being a problem with the program. But it still really has settled down and become a solid solution for us. We've closed over 11,000 tickets, and we continue with our server virtualization, which again condenses those servers to, we don't have 140, even though we have 140 servers. There's not 140 boxes plugged in somewhere taking electricity. We've been able to virtualize a lot of that, which also improves its security posturing.
So far this year, we've finished all the high schools to go 1-to-1. As you can see on the map on the left, that's what we presented to you in April, what our coverage was. Red, orange, that's good coverage. What this is showing is 5 gigahertz signal, which is what the Chromebooks want to use. We have finished, this is a picture of Matea, so this same area of Matea from last year to this year, you could see the difference in coverage with adding an access point in every classroom. Wiring has been done at all the middle schools and the high schools. We are slowly, we replaced all the old access points, but now we're slowly rolling in the new 1-to-1. Like I said, the high schools have been finished. We're working on the middle schools. We do it at the end of the day when the students leave. We stay after and throw the access points up. The wiring has not been finished at the elementary schools, but that will continue over Thanksgiving, Christmas break, and we're hoping by beginning of summer to be completely finished with everything.
One other thing we did last year is at the end of the year, you get the tech updates. We sent out a survey specifically about Synergy, where we were hearing the most complaints, which was from the teacher side, the grade book and that training. Again, if we remember, go back to when Synergy was rolled out, that training was done virtually. Everybody was at home. They really hadn't even seen the program. You know, we spent the next 2 years really trying to stabilize all of the, I don't want to say the administrative side of Synergy, but we were starting to hear this hasn't gotten better, this hasn't gotten better. So what we did is we really made a focus this summer. Kristen Kaiser really worked on the Teacher View T-View tech site. She has 64 different updates up there on the document now. The ones that she has that we're still waiting on were not prioritized by staff, but during the survey they told us what handouts and things they were looking for. She's also doing videos with those. Again, we share this information out so that teachers now have a one-pager. We try to do it all in a one or a two-pager. You know, you've seen some how-tos, and the ones I make are like 40 pages. But, you know, she was able to condense everything down to like one page to do this one important task. And we're really hoping that this continues to address that little level of frustration. Teachers are a little bit happier to go grab one page and go, I can follow these 4 or 5 steps. Kristen's been able to narrow that down. And again, once she gets all of the video links up there, I think that'll be very helpful too. So it was a good accomplishment for us to really jump on probably the one pain point we were still hearing with Synergy.
So as Rod mentioned before, we went and started migrating some of our stuff from our 203 partnership in-house to 204. 203 was a great partner during the transition and continue to help us to this day. But we went live with our new internal Print Center web portal where all teachers can submit copy order jobs of those basic, as a reminder, those basic black, white, color, a little bit of small spiral bounding stuff, jobs to the Print Center. We've seen a remarkable decrease to what's going to 203 as Rod mentioned, and really has gone up and seamless even with 2 retirements at the print centers in the high schools, 2 of the copy clerks that had actually retired at the end of the year. So we onboarded 2 new copy clerks. Josie, our new print center manager, has been awesome really managing that and getting the reports out and the billing and everything else. So no real complaints, only positive success stories on that.
And again, I always go with this graphic. Again, I think this is one way that it helps us plan what we need each year, but it also is it serves as a kind of a guiding post when anyone brings anything new to us. So when we talk about bringing something into the classroom, it's not just a change in the blue area of this. We have to look at it from the network access. We have to look at it, is it secure? Is the data secure? What is it doing operationally? Do teachers need to learn things? So we always, everything that we add is kind of hits one of these 4 points. It just helps us plan, so it's how I've always presented, and I don't want to change that on this board unless they ever say we don't like your format, because it really does. It keeps us very, on top of every piece that we would bring into the system. So with that, I'll share it with BJ and Brian will be going over most of these.
So current project plans we have going on right now is replacing our UPSs. The UPSs are at the end of their life, basically, so the batteries will soon to die. We need to have UPSs that hold long enough for the generator to kick on so that we can fall back on the generator. Another project we're working on is our core switch upgrades, which you'll see in the next slide. Those are one of the pieces of equipment that's out of date. As well as some network routing changes. Currently, we have 2 data centers. Part of that whole server virtualization plan was to fail over with limited to no, without the user seeing a problem. In our current state, we would have to do some manual work if we were to lose one of those data centers. So the network routing changes that we're looking to make is trying to automate this so that we can on a Monday morning, unplug one data center and be up and running. And then simulated data, excuse me, simulated data center outage. This is actually scheduled for the 21st of November. What we will do is come in at about 6 a.m. before any of the sporting activities start, as it will be Thanksgiving break, and we will physically shut down our main data center to see if these routing changes work, what we need to do to get the network up and running on the other side quicker. So that's our current plans right now. Future planning for next year that we've already started, or 2 years out that we've already started looking at, is the firewall upgrades, as well as the cloud-based phone system or fax solution. We're looking into upgrading to something that gives us more abilities when we lose a site based basically for a network outage or something. We could still have our phones, and bandwidth upgrade. We are looking to add more bandwidth at our backup data center so that at any time we can fail over to either site. So this here is our graph of our current equipment, their current age, and the typical life cycle. We update this on a year-to-year basis as we do upgrades, where they're at. As you can see, the wireless LAN controller has been removed because we are now using cloud-based access points, so there's no longer a need for that.
The other, the voice gateway. The other one that's still out there large is the voice gateway. Just a reminder to that, we did the server updates on the current phone system and purchased a 3-year maintenance agreement with it, so it's not up till the end of next year, and that's kind of why we've been able to, it's still an alarm, but it is one that's going to be solved with that phone fax solution update. But again, we're still under contract this year to get that done.
So one of the projects, current projects, is the Google Shared Departments Drives. Rod mentioned earlier. We did elementary and middle school last year. Brian Giannini and his team were instrumental in getting that going in a partnership. They handled most of the training. Right now, we're moving in to work on the high schools. A little larger, a little more complicated, so we want to make sure we take our time with that. We're doing some pilots with Nico right now. Once we get the kinks worked out, we'll move on to the other school. Hope to be done by the end of the year. Provides greater functionality for the staff and also removes the need to have that storage locally. We already pay for the storage at Google, so no need to refresh and buy hard drives and additional SAN storage. One of the driving factors in that is cost, security, and performance. Ron?
The MTSS module in Synergy is something new that we added this year. Working with Mrs. Rosenblum and the MTSS team, we are looking at, we are in the process of doing a setup with Synergy currently in this module, with a rollout in the 5 buildings where the administrators are part of the MTSS team in early spring, with the hope of rolling it out, the MTSS plan module in Synergy. This again puts the Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention plan process into the data center already. It'll help for analytics if we pull reports. It helps keep everybody in one spot. Right now, everybody is following the MTSS module plan book at the elementary and middle, but they have their own little ways of collecting some of that data and stuff, so we're really trying to formulate this. There's about 12 pieces to that product. We're starting with the first one, the MTSS plans. Possibly this spring we might be able to show you some of what that looks like. It is a really it's a robust system to monitor MTSS. And again, we always think about not letting any student slip through the cracks. This really does bring all of that, those checks and balances of MTSS Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 into the system, so that in a seating chart you can see if there's a plan for a student. You can't forget it on a daily basis and do those little, one-step check-ins with students. It's a nice solution.
Currently, we're working with the Skyward Business HR software implementation. As of right now, they're just doing training with HR and the business department for the hopefully summer implementation.
204 Connect Communications, and again, this is in partnership with Lisa and the communications department. We brought this in a year ago or 2 years ago, mainly to replace the mass communication. We always had that teacher comms piece as well. This product has become a little bit more dependent this year, as Remind sent everyone with an ipsd.org email that said it's no longer free. Thanks for 10 years of free, but it's a heavy cost, and we've decided to not invest in that, as we already have a solution that does it. So this year you might hear a lot, we're starting to use 204 Communications a little bit more, or 204 Connect. It does have that app base. With the new website that launched last year as well, they can also actually update their website from as an e-alert. There's a lot of benefits to it. It is just, we're kind of going through a whole status of retraining. We retrained once, but everyone thought, well, I'm just going to use Remind, and now they have to find another solution. We were one of the few. There was not many. It really was a volume issue with Remind. Checking with other districts, not everyone got that, just based on the size of our district, and it being free, they wanted to, I think I've said it before, it's more of a shame on Remind for the way that they did it. They gave us 1 week to figure it out. So we really are kind of revamping up the 204 Connect.
We want to continue on with the copy printer deployment consolidation, if I can talk. That was part of the project where a year and a half ago, we upgraded a bunch of our copiers as part of the other plan to migrate some of that work in-house. We have about 170 printers right now at their end of life. Rather than replacing printers, want to do a consolidation, buy a few copiers, and get rid of a bunch of printers. We're looking kind of a 5 to 8 printer for each copier. Putting more modern machines in there, more robust. It also goes to kind of the energy conservation too. Older printers use more energy. A lot of times they're just sucking energy sitting there. If we can reduce the footprint on the number of devices, there'll be a back-end energy savings, along with reducing kind of the cost, and also performance and uptime. And copiers, like anything else on the network, everything's a computer and everything's a security risk. They're at their end of life, and they no longer will get firmware updates. So we need to go ahead and move something forward, and kind of that consolidation of that ongoing plan, that 3-part we had 2 years ago, is kind of the end of that project.
So future approach and planning, and I shouldn't say this is so much future, but it's always going to be in the future because it's always going to be changing, is the business continuity planning. That involves all areas of administration, departments, but with the new system coming in, the new Skyward business, HR business system, we're going to have to continue to change the continuity plan to match what the district is using. Another thing that we're doing that I believe was part of your goals, yes, was the long-term budget planning. So what we're trying to do is, instead of coming and requesting large sums of money, try to get on a budget plan that says, for this amount of money, we're going to do this on this year and so forth, and not keep asking for more and more, but try to streamline the amount of money we ask on a year-to-year basis.
I'd like to ask for more money for Windows 11, but no, I'm just kidding. Windows 11, Windows 10 is coming end of life right now, and believe it or not, it's been out for a while now. Windows 11's been out for a few years, has not had a major adoption out in the public, but there is an end of life coming with Windows 10, so we need to start that planning, not only just in terms of systems and operations, but we also have to look at how it will affect, the classroom use, lab usage and stuff too. Classroom instructional area needs. We have a few projects coming up for next summer. You'll be seeing in the winter, spring. High school laptops and desktops are up for refresh on their cycle. We do still have quite a few desktops. We have all those office spaces. We still do have some computer labs that are need of special software. So those are getting to be their normal upgrade cycles we've been doing for multiple years now. Along with that, there's a few high school Project Lead the Way labs that have the special workstations in them that are up for refresh. And then we'll have our annual Chromebook refresh. Are thinking of seeing if we can do that in a slightly different way, see if there are some more economies of scales, and reworking some of the levels we're doing this year. But we're still working through those project plans. We'll be bringing that to the board late winter. In terms of future approach and planning, working with everyone in the district on the master facilities plan, along with some of the David Jakes reportings you may have heard of about how to best use instructional spaces, what the technology looks like. Middle and high schools, we did the smart panel refresh for the smart boards and projectors at elementary, but we have not tackled middle and high school yet. So we need to see what those instructional spaces may look like as part of both those planning cycles, and what we need to look at as those technologies are nearing end of life, how we do that refresh at middle and high school, working with curriculum instruction, Brian Giovannini Innovation, and the facilities plan, and all that coming together. And as I mentioned before, Windows 11 operating system upgrade, it's on both slides because it affects infrastructure, but also the classroom. So I want to keep those two hats on as we move forward into the spring, especially at the high school level. They'll probably be the first toe in the water of Windows 11 next year. Google API controls, as BJ mentioned before, improving our security posture. Google came out and forced us to do some look at Google APIs. Kind of a surprise thing is that as you go to any website, it says log in with your Google credentials. Makes every life real easy, but also ties some other networks, companies into our network that we may or may not want to tie into. When Google first came out, there was no way to turn that off, and they've slowly been adding more features to manage it. And then earlier this year, they came out and said, we were going to force you to manage it, but all of our tools aren't out yet. So it's been a little bit of an adventure going through there. We feel we're in good shape now. Kind of stop the bleed. It's also one of those things right now, under 18 can no longer select the login with Google by default. We have to approve it first. And we've been tightening up those controls and turning off apps that are slowly used or shouldn't be tied into our domain. There are a couple of sites that you can go easily that they should not be used as school district credentials. So we've been going through the project, working with Alfonso on the server team, and tightening up those controls. We're continuing to look at them, but we're in a much better shape than we were last spring.
So the network analyzer tool, after we did the internal pen test or had somebody come in and do the internal pen test, we found that our CrowdStrike solution was great at stopping somebody from installing or running something on our network. What it didn't help us with was analyzing network traffic, those that are running under the radar, stealth, looking at things, pulling data out, and everything like that. So what we did over the summer was we implemented a network analyzing tool. It uses AI to monitor network traffic, and if it sees anything abnormal, it blocks it automatically. We're about 90% there, finished with it. There are some couple areas that it's picking up false positives, like some of our real traffic that we want to use. So we haven't been able to turn that off, but we're slowly tweaking it with the company, and we should be done in the next few weeks with that. And then it'll be completely operational. As of right now, nights and weekends, it's automatically blocking traffic that it doesn't like, as well as the most dangerous stuff. The other thing that we bought or purchased over the summer was an internal penetration testing software package. When we did the pen test, it was nice. Somebody came in from the outside, told us everything that was going on. But as our network continuously changes throughout the year, we only get a snapshot in time of what that shows us at that particular time. And so then we go back and we try to fix what we think is the problem, and then we wait a year for them to come back in and tell us whether or not we can fix it. During a conference, we saw a piece of software that does this, where we can actually do this on a daily basis if we wanted to, which is nice because you have updates that come out on a weekly basis, and now we can test to see if those updates created any kind of openings or anything like that. We bring new systems in throughout the year. We bring new computers in, new servers in, new switches. So we can constantly test, and it will tell us where the problem areas are, and we can fix them right away, as opposed to waiting a year. So for future approach and planning, we're still looking at the network access control system. That one pretty tricky. There's a lot of them out there, and it's a matter of finding the one that fits us best and also fits our budget. And then another thing that we're looking at are working with Buildings and Grounds on implementing door access and camera solutions through some of the schools that do not have them currently.
Again, just our strategic plan focus, identified there in the slide where they match up with our district strategic plan, and we'll entertain any questions.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rising.
Never fails when I'm not ready.
Oh,
I
can go
know that's
some-
okay. First of all, you guys are doing an amazing job. Slide 13. You had mentioned the high school laptop, desktop refresh, high school Project Lead the Way labs. I'm assuming, since we're doing our facility study right now, you guys are kind of talking back and forth. I mean, I know hardware's hardware, right? But I know the look and feel maybe of some of those classroom instructional spaces where it could either save us money or make us rethink how we're deploying some of that. I don't know, but I'm just throwing it out there, and hopefully you guys are kind of having those cross conversations.
Along the lines of, you mean for like the desktops?
Yeah. I mean,
Most of
just-
those are office space desktops. There'll be secretarials,
Okay.
things like that. And there are those few Project Lead the Way labs, which will always be needed. I think when it comes to the device that's going to be in the hand of students, that's probably a discussion with the innovation team, curriculum instruction, and the whole district. I don't think we're planning on changing from the Chromebook at any time soon. But yeah, desktop refresh right now is more people who are sitting at a desk. It's not really for students or teachers. Teachers are always on laptops.
And then next question, you guys have briefly talked about the CrowdStrike a little bit and the change with the two-factor and the passphrase now and everything. Have you run the data on that and seen improvements and less attacks or targeting, because of some of that? Or is it too early to kind of tell some of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we saw a few.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of early to see.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen vulnerabilities come out from like mass email hijacking or anything like that where they post, we stole these passwords.
Yeah.
Do they cross-reference with you? Part of this penetration testing software that we got actually gives us a link to the dark web to see what's out there and whose accounts are vulnerable. So when we fully implement that one, we'll be able to find some more of that. I can tell you that we've been attacked pretty much multiple times over multiple days this year with DDoS attacks from the outside. But luckily, we pay for DDoS protection, so nobody's noticed anything here. We just get the email that you're under attack, but we got you covered,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So.
And then, and I don't want to dig in too much of the weeds, so please keep this high level, but the next slide, on slide 14, you had mentioned the Google API controls, and I know that we utilize identity automation for a lot of the access management stuff and that type of thing. Is that the same thing that we're also using the Google API controls for, or is it we using those for something else?
The Google API is really when you go to that website and go log on with Google. When you click log on with Google, you're saying, this is what I want to log in with, this is what the company wants to access, this is how it wants to do that.
Okay.
And you're tying kind of your login into your domain, so it's more that API login access.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we're kicking those separate. Okay,
Yep.
that's all I had, thanks. Great job, guys.
All right. I'd like to ask if our student representatives have any questions or comments for the technology presentation. You guys have a mic? Okay, okay. All right, Ms. Fosdick.
Thank you for the presentation. My only real question is mostly so we can all hear the answer and the community can hear it as well. But how would you say the students experience all the projects and upgrades that you've made over the last year? How does it improve the student experience? What do they see? What are they getting their hands on that they can actually tell there's a difference?
So really, for the students to really take advantage of, like, for instance, the wireless project that we just went through. What we saw in the past was if you were in a room that didn't have an access point, these students were literally going outside their classroom, standing under the access point to get access. Again, we haven't finished all the schools yet, so I can't say all the schools are just fine, but I haven't heard anything. At the high schools, obviously, you could see the coverage there, that they shouldn't have an issue. We had a bunch of teachers that were really excited when we were in there about the access points, but I really haven't kind of heard much on the student side, to be honest with you. But what this should fix is if you have two classrooms next to each other and they all decide to pull out their Chromebooks one day, they should be working just fine. Whereas in the past, if two classrooms did that, you typically had problems.
It sounds like in this case, not hearing much about it is a good thing. We can hope.
Generally, the way it works in technology, if you don't hear
Ask
anyone
your
complaining,
students.
then that's a positive result.
We're in a good place, yes.
But as far as the other projects like the pen testing and the network analyzer, the students shouldn't see any of that, or they shouldn't be affected. That's more on the security side.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Dumming?
Thank you so much. Great presentation. So really appreciative. I'm going to start with slide 14 in safety and security. You shared a lot. Do we get any type of, is there any type of warning of someone that shouldn't be accessing or trying to access? And maybe it alludes to the question that you just answered, I'm not sure. But if someone's trying to access any of our sites, do we, that shouldn't, is there a way for us to get, or are we apprised of that?
Yeah, so the network analyzing tool, it won't tell us if an individual is trying to access. What it will tell us is a machine or a MAC address, which a MAC address is kind of like your home address. Everybody's got one. Every machine's got one as well. So we'll see a MAC address or a, a machine name. Sometimes the username comes on there, sometimes it doesn't, but we've automated that so that it should block any traffic that shouldn't be coming this way. With that being said, as far as users' rights and things like that, that's typically stopped at the Windows level on the servers and everything like that. Certain users have access to certain servers. Certain users actually have access to certain networks, as we have several different networks throughout our infrastructure.
An example would be like, let's say I always use my desktop in my office to connect to the same resource, and then my credentials go from another laptop that I've never logged into. Analyzer tool might say, well, you got to flag this and look at it, even though it might be legitimate, it might be not. That's kind of what that AI does. It says, you know, Mr. Matt can access this, but he normally doesn't access it from here. And it learns that. It starts to learn which users access what from where, and it'll throw up, you know, red flags, yellow flags, orange flags, and then we set up those settings to, yeah, just block it until someone says, yes, it's okay, or allow it if it is this user. But, I mean, typically we're always on the same machine. You don't jump around from 3, 4, 5 machines, so.
And I guess vice versa. We, if anyone that's using our network, we have blocks so that people can't access things that they shouldn't be trying to access.
Yeah, we have blocks internally and externally, and that's mainly the firewalls that will block the outside traffic from coming in, as well as, you know, like I said, we have separate networks that, you know, only the tech staff are allowed to get to this network, and users can only get to these things and things like that.
Slide 13, I was so excited to see the middle and high school instructional spaces, and we'll be really excited on the elementary side too. But when I first became a board member, President Donahue and I had a chance to attend a national conference that showed all these wonderful things for instructional spaces. And I'm like, I came back, I'm like, why don't we have these things? When can we get them? So it's so exciting to see with just the way that education, advances are done, the way that students learn is so different and it changes so often. And so the innovation in instructional spaces is something that is just so critical because you see it, you see so many different spaces and so done very differently in a variety of schools. So excited to see that conversation and the work with our facility planning. So thank you so much for putting that on there, and truly look forward to those updates as they come. I did have a question, slide 12, the MTSS module and synergy. I just need a little help, please, on that. Everybody else may get it, but I need a little bit more help as far as when you share that students, that it's an area where teachers can help students not miss something that they need or fall through the cracks. Can you share a little bit more about that for me?
Yeah, I mean, the MTSS plan in the district, or multi-tiered system of support, is, it's got academic piece, it's got behavior, social pieces to it. What this module does is it just puts all the collecting and the data that they're using in one spot. A lot of times with an MTSS plan, it's set for 4 to 6 weeks. Students going through a hard time or something, and we just want to make sure that we're checking in a little more often. You can always see smiling faces. Some kids aren't going to always respond that same way. This offers a lot of tools to students would be able to do things through their Student View app, like a smiley face, or I'm kind of sad, why my goldfish died. They can say things that they aren't going to walk, well, in kindergarten, we'll walk up to a teacher and tell them every day, but most other kids won't. So that's just part of that solution. It really kind of puts a plan together where a parent is aware, a student is aware, a teacher is aware. We need to, take a little bit more extra care, a little more one-on-one with the student for a few weeks while we work through something, whether it be academic, behavioral, mental health-wise, anything like that. And it involves a team. Putting it all in one place and tracking it so we can get data out of that is just a helpful tool. So we were able to take the MTSS plan book that we have as a district, and we're working on implementing that into their solution now. We're slowly rolling out other parts of that module, but we just had a meeting with them today. We get to see a first demo of it next week, so we're really excited to kind of see it in that system. I can be more than happy to share some of the MTSS videos that they do as their webinar walkthroughs, just so you can kind of see what it is, but it's a nice solution.
Thank you so much. That really points to both sides of our portrait that we talk about, and all of the importance of having everyone involved and for student success. So thanks a lot. That's a great representation of that.
Ms. Gantz.
Thank you guys, honestly, for this wonderful presentation. The only question I had was actually just addressed. So thank you, Ms. Deming. You were not the only one that was wondering about the MTSS module. I think the only question I have about it, because your answer was very easy to understand for me, thankfully. So thank you for that. Would it include like a year-long plan, like an IEP or 504, or is it just those immediate kind of temporary things that they're dealing with that would be included on that?
I would say it's probably and again, it's more of an early warning, and there's tier 2 and tier 3. Again, 80% of the kids is all tier 1, what we do for everybody. Tier 2 and tier 3 plans moving strategically to a tier 3 might move into a 504 or an IEP if they're still not, if they're still not gaining their goals or attaining their goal. But I think this is more, it's an equity thing. It's getting everyone the same thing, and everyone needs something different. And I think this captures what that might be in the classroom for a student, whether, again, it be social emotional, academic. It allows it to be front and center. Again, on a teacher's dashboard screen, they would have an MTSS logo underneath only a handful of kids. So it's not like every teacher has to log in and go, I've got to check on every kid every day. It really does try to limit, but also keep it, I have to check in. That is a point. Not that anyone would ever forget, but it does. It's just those little reminders and little tabs and tricks to keep everybody focused, make sure the check-ins are happening, make sure the parents are checking in. Again, we lose that connection sometime. It's just a nice solution.
I think that's absolutely wonderful, a nice way to kind of, like you said, make sure everything's equitable and, we don't have any children kind of falling through the cracks because they don't speak up for themselves, because a lot of children can't advocate. So that was my only question. Thank you guys so much. I'm so excited to see what we're doing in the district.
Miss Jane?
So I have one question, and that is with regards to AI. As you are thinking about the future, which I appreciate that section in so many of your slides, future approach and planning, have you been asked by teachers, staff members about instructional tools that involve AI? What are you guys exploring? How are we staying up to date on this? And any thoughts about that?
Yeah, we did just recently. We all thought AI was open. We just found out. I'd be the first one to admit when something went wrong. We're not intentionally blocking AI, but we just found out that our like ChatGPT was one that was blocked for students, which we did not realize. I just came back from a conference last weekend that was, I came and told Dr. Chali it was 80% AI. It was, and there's people at all spectrums. I think we really want to learn how to embrace it and how to use it effectively, working with Brian Giovannini's team, integrating it correctly. It's been open for our staff. I think it's here to stay, and I think we need to embrace it and learn to use it the right way. I understand the apprehensiveness of it, but if you've never sat down and played with it, it's very neat what it can do, and that's how students now are going to be going into workforce and being expected to know that. So I think we're looking at definitely figuring out why it was blocked. We honestly think it was unintentional from a filter that just thinks schools don't want, because teachers aren't blocked and we weren't hearing that it was blocked. So, but yeah, we're looking at rolling out. We're again working with the innovation side. What that usage looks like and supporting it. It's again just like, when I was in school, I couldn't use a calculator in class. What I mean? Things change.
Absolutely.
So can I throw something in there? I'm sure you guys, maybe you've researched this or not, but there are some current ed tech companies that are doing some amazing things with AI.
Mm-hmm.
I've also seen some school districts create and bring in their own district-created AI, because you can train AI to be what you want it to be and what you don't want it to be, right? And it can be another educational assistance tool for our students without doing the work for them.
Correct.
And it can guide them. So, I don't know if you've looked into that, but there are some wonderful things out there that I've seen not only ed tech companies do, but school districts as well. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah.
Let me just say that we will have an AI presentation in the spring, and so please keep all your questions, write them down, but there will be a presentation, because our ambassadors, our innovation ambassadors in the schools are talking about it and engaged in this, and as Mr. Mack was saying, Brian Giovannini will be part of that presentation later on in the spring.
Great. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump the gun on that. I just see, because I work in higher education, it's the same issues that we're dealing with now, and I'm just curious what we're doing to stay on top of that. And I'm looking forward to the report and learning to hear what you guys, the experts, kind of know with that. And I just also want to mention how much I appreciate the way you structure the presentation, because the use of the similar slides from last year's helps me remember and because you cover both in breadth and depth the topic so well, it allows us to process the information in such a way that someone who's not normally savvy with technology feels like they can follow it. So thank you for doing that and organizing content in such a way. Thank you.
Mr. Karubas?
Great job building on the comments that were previously mentioned. I think I would appreciate, I'm not sure where the rest of the board members stand, is adding a slide, as much as I hate adding slides, but one related to the budget. And you mentioned it kind of as a throwaway at the beginning, but we see a lot of, I think the technology update is important, because although it's just about everywhere and a pen could be technology, getting into some of the nitty gritty is very important for us in the community. But I think also building a financial aspect to this presentation would be beneficial for us to see more of the 30,000 foot view instead of getting too into the MTSS stuff. And also we approve contracts every so often, and you talk about the updates on when we need to do the refreshes. And so if we had some kind of this is our 5-year map, and you might have it, but some kind of report saying, this software contract's going to be up this year, or we're doing 4 different ones this year, or this is when we're doing the updates, so there's going to be a spike this year. I think some aspect, and I'm not telling you how to do the report, but I think if we could, that would help doing the budget and help us see the higher view rather than, we're approving this one off and this one off. And obviously things change and you got to add to it, and there's always going to be surprises. And I don't want to have to throw Matt at another chair to make it a whole financial presentation, but I think it is important to say, look, we've entered into 20 contracts to deliver these services, and they're all coming up next year, and we're gonna have to do a whole thing. Or, you did the slide on the useful life. Well, based on that, we're gonna plan and budget to replace X this year, X this year, X this year. So that would be beneficial from my side, not to add too much to it, but one additional slide to deal with that. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you very much. I agree with many of the comments that were already stated, but the quadrants, when you show that and organize your presentation around that, I find that very helpful because it shows how technology touches. It has all these different aspects, which are all encompassing. I also appreciated you bringing up the Remind app because our student Caitlin from Nequa that last spoke at our last board meeting, she brought that up as an issue, and I was like, what is that? And so the fact that 204 Connect is something that is available now for them to start using, and that there's a story behind why Remind is not something we're going to continue to work with is important. The other thing that I like in the presentation, I really do like the slide 11. In the past, that's the one with the life cycle, and because in the past, this slide didn't look as decent. There was a lot of expired stuff that we had, so I like seeing this. I think it sounds like you have 2,748 access points, but it sounds like we're going to have a lot more with coverage across all the buildings in a better way. I like the map of Matia that you showed, the difference in the signal, so that was very good. But I also think it's important, and you have it in a theme through your talk, to talk about energy savings and cost savings and how the work that you're doing, you are always considering that in your decision making. So I do agree it would be helpful to have a financial kind of view, but I also do appreciate you continuing to look at how do we save money while continuing to protect our assets and our students, but also the energy and environmental kind of issues too. So thank you for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we will have our presentation from Michael Purcell, Diana Schill, Clayton Fiji, and
Good evening, Board of Education, Dr. Talley. It's our pleasure to come up and share with you some things that we've been working on with our high schools. Diana Schill, English Department Chair from Wabanzi Valley, Clayton Figge, Science Teacher from Nequa Valley, and Brian Giannini, who's been referenced 14 times tonight, are here to share with you 2 new high school course proposals that we're very, very excited about. These are being proposed to put in the course book for students to select later this year to enroll in for next school year, the 2024-2025 school year. This is in accordance with Board Policy 640, which really talks about the development and the adoption of curriculum, and very closely aligns to Strategic Plan Priority 1, particularly Objective 2, which is to provide all students with high-quality curriculum and instruction to meet and exceed standards and or demonstrate greater than predicted growth on standardized assessments. The two classes that we're here to talk to you tonight about are dual credit English 12 and senior inquiry, and we'll give you a little bit of details on each of those and have some of the people that are involved in that work to dig into it with you and for you. But just as a reminder to the board and those in attendance, our general process for these new courses is that we bring the courses must be made through the academic departments. We'll talk about how the senior inquiry class is a little bit different on that front, but really then brought through all three high schools and then brought to Brian and myself and Dr. Howard to really look at that sort of for the merit of all three schools and really talk about what are the merits of the course, how many students we impacted, how will it achieve, how it impacts achievement outcomes, and its alignment to board goals and the strategic plan. The first class that we want to share with you is a dual credit class. Our English 12, it would be in partnership with the College of DuPage, something that Diane and I and her English department colleagues have been working on for quite some time now, and are very excited to share with you. It would be a full year grade 12 option. Just to orient you a little bit, we have our English classes for grades 9, 10, and 11 are all full year options, right? So you select a class, you take that class for the year. Typically, for grade 12, we have kind of two paths you can go down. One is the AP course, which is a full year course, and the other is you can take two senior choice classes to meet your senior English credit. This would be more that full year option that you would be opting in to earn College of DuPage credit for English 1101 and 1102. These are writing, composition, rhetoric classes. Diane will tell you a little bit more about the details of that course in just a minute. But they would be taught by our teachers on our campus in partnership with the College of DuPage.
So one of the main reasons that we wanted to introduce dual credit is that when we were looking at our current senior offerings and even looking at how our current junior classes were spiraling, we saw that there was just a gap for our readiness for our college. So when we have our junior courses, we have our AP3, which is our rhetoric and writing course, and then we also have our comparative studies, which is our college prep class. And both of them really do focus on rhetoric and writing and author's purpose and style. And then when we got to the senior level, we do have an AP class, but it's mostly focused on literature. And then our other courses that Mike was talking about are semester-long classes, and they were also still focused on literature and not necessarily paralleling what students would be doing in college. And so we wanted to find a course that was accessible for all of our students, not just students that were on the honors track or on the AP track, but that all students can take. And as you can see, that if they do take both classes, because it is a full year, so they have the option of earning 6 credits before even starting college, which I think is, for offering that for all of our students, is a huge deal, considering that if they do take the AP classes, it's only dependent on the college and dependent on how they score on the test. So this does allow a lot of accessibility for all of our students in our curriculum. The other things is that since it is a rhetoric-based class and looking at the COD curriculum, it does align to our media literacy, because they do focus on nonfiction and digital text. So it goes right along with what we're adopting and integrating into all of our curriculum right now. So it's kind of an easy placement for us to have that type of literacy standards as well.
Just to take a little bit of a sidestep, just to orient the board on our current dual credit offerings. We put a slide in here that put all of those on there. What you see is that we have a lot in the art, business, facts, TE areas, and less in our kind of core, our core classes. And it's been something that we've been working really hard at. It is a harder fit to kind of get that in partnership with the College of DuPage, and sometimes, as Diana could attest, is it's a pretty heavy climb sometimes to get to get teacher certified. To do that, we know all of our teachers would be wonderful at this, but there are some certification issues through the Higher Learning Commission that we need to really navigate. So we've been spending some time to do that, and we want to use this partnership as sort of a springboard to potential future things as well.
So this slide just kind of shows the similarities for our COD for their syllabus and our Illinois state standards. And we focus a lot of the standards on the writing and the reading, since it is a rhetoric class for both the semesters to kind of build off of each other. They are focused on mostly nonfiction texts instead of being fictional. They do focus on research and inquiry. So these are some more, I guess, real college readiness types of classes and content that the students would need to go into college. So it does allow the students to look at all various types of interests as well, since it is based a lot on research and the different types of media literacy as well.
And we'll talk through the details of the timeline in just a moment, but really just reiterate what Diana said. This class really is a class that can be accessible for many, many of our students, that we anticipate that most students that enroll in this dual credit English class, which can earn 6 credits at College of DuPage, transferable credits to guaranteed to any school in the state of Illinois, and typically transferred to schools nationwide. Likely will be, there may be some kids that took the AP English class as a junior, but really we think that kids that are being successful in our regular English 3 class will be very successful here. And that's really our target, is to give kids who maybe haven't had that college English experience yet, to give them that before they graduate from us. So really to increase the whole basket of kids that are getting that college credit before they leave our walls in a really supported IPSD teacher-led environment. And we're really, really excited about it. To give you some of the kind of where have we been and where are we going, we've actually been working on this since about spring break last year, trying to work with COD and make sure it was a fit and everything made sense, and working on getting teachers identified and getting them approved by the college, working through the logistics of the partnership so that we would feel confident coming to you and sharing this work. So we are doing that now. We'll kind of talk about next steps at the end of this presentation. We're going to work with teachers that have been identified to look at the curricular outcomes, including the ones that you saw a couple slides ago, and the remainder of those. This is a class where we're going to be, our duty will be to teach the COD curriculum, but we can say what is that, how does that kind of mesh with the media literacy things and state of Illinois standards and things that are important to us too, because there are some freedoms in the COD model, which is wonderful. Really look around, what are the potential resources that we may need for that as that comes closer into focus, and then have some conversations, and if there's additional professional learning that needs to happen through the spring for students to start in August. So I can't share with you enough how excited we are and how grateful I am for Diane and Casey Solgos and Karen Lawson, who have been partners with this to get this up and off the ground to be able to share with you tonight. We're going to pivot. We're going to do questions on both of them at the end, but we'll pivot over to the senior inquiry class.
The second course is something we're really excited about that, as Mike talked about earlier, it came through in a little bit of a different process. This course development came through a conversation with Dr. Howard and the principals as we were looking at opportunities at the high school level based on national trends and what we're hearing from students through our principal advisory committees, based on course selection, and just what students are really talking about, what they're looking for in a high school experience. So we're really excited about how this course came about as we start to talk with our teachers and department chairs about it, about really leveraging that inquiry-based process, interdisciplinary approach to a course, and really empowering our kids to have a experience that allows them to leverage some things that they're interested in and really take a deeper dive into that a little bit more flexible blended learning experience as they enter that senior year. So that interdisciplinary course is really at the heart of it, and really leveraging those student interests is at the core of this class. And so we're really excited to kind of discuss more about that.
Yeah, I mean, what Brian said, Of course, we wanted the inquiry and the portrait of the graduate is really kind of what we're driving. This thing off the turn. I'd break it already? Oh, sorry. My first time with these wireless ones. Jeepers. All right. So we really wanted to make sure the kids it was a process-driven course. So it's inquiry, and we wanted to have like the student interest be the fuel, and the course would be the vehicle, and we'd figure out where we're going together, kind of a thing. So I mean, the kids are all about trying to figure out what they can get into. I teach seniors, and they're all trying to figure out what they can do that's authentic. So we want to give them a course that helps them figure out, along with the teaching staff and a whole lot of community, how to get them there and get them an authentic way to get there. And that's what we kind of put together. It's the collaborative, the inquiry-based, like Brian said, the course that appeals to all the different students of different backgrounds. So it's not we're not looking for a certain entry-level GPA. We're looking for basically motivation and interest. And then we will help shape them, guide them, and roll with them. Then you put it in like a think tank. That's kind of, I visualize it as a think tank. You got all these kids in there, and they all are motivated to solve something or think more about something or learn more about something. And now you put them together, and it's like, all right, we're going to grade you on this whole, what do you need? What process do you need? What skills do we need? And you're doing this content, but for the first time in my life being a science teacher, I don't have a list of content to get through. They bring me the content. I help them figure out where to go with it. And the purpose gets really fun. And we got to do that in the semester, by the way. That's going to be a challenge. This will be fun. And then we're going to have 2 teachers. So I'm going to be one half of that party at Nequa, and I'm looking forward to figuring out where we're going.
So it sort of took a traditional course, right, and kind of turned it on its head, really, because a lot of our classes, we come to you and say, we're doing these standards and these topics and these themes, and we're doing the opposite here, right? We're starting with what are the outcomes we want for our seniors, which the board and the community has identified as the portrait of a graduate. We're kind of looking at those 6 tenets and saying, how can we give kids an opportunity to demonstrate knowledge in those areas, demonstrate growth in those areas, by them picking a content area or a topic that they're very, very interested in and allowing them to pursue that passion. Really, it's, kind of that word came up a lot as we met with this group. Clayton and his partner, Nequa, and the other teachers, and Diane is actually in that, and some department chairs and the assistant principals for curriculum instruction. And Brian and I were able to kind of lead them through a day to really kind of start thinking about, what can we talk about tonight? I don't even know, right? So to really kind of get to that point, and what really came out of that day, we kind of had some inkling, but really what came out of that day was a really, really clear tie to the portrait of a graduate, and really kind of saying that our next task at our next meeting will be to say, how can we create student-friendly descriptors of what that looks like so that we can give kids feedback on that through their process of kind of researching and understanding and developing and communicating about some topic of interest. So, well, again, we are super excited about this. This is a very different experience for our kids, and we're really excited to partner with some really passionate teachers and leaders on where we can go with it. So, again, just our timeline. We have met with that group once to get an idea of what we can share with you tonight, and we plan to do that again a couple times pretty soon. And to make sure that we can have a really clear plan on how we can communicate this to kids and the counselors and the families and those kinds of things, because this is different, right? So you got to create some understanding around that. And then begins, the enrolling piece in the winter for next August. All of that is, pending that, we'll bring this back we'll have this open for comment, obviously, tonight and questions. And then through the November 6th meeting, which is our plan to bring this back to you, as well as a dual credit English class for the board's approval. Once that's done, we'll really kind of get in earnest on doing some curriculum development and some shared learning, ongoing professional development, collaboration with the College of DuPage. And then if there are resources that we need to support that work, we'll certainly come back to you at that point and say, hey, remember that thing we talked about? We need some money. So that would be something we would do in the spring, similar to what we did with the AP government class last year. All right. So at this time, we'd be glad to answer any questions you have about these 2 exciting opportunities.
Victoria, do you have any questions or comments? Yeah, you can come over here.
Hi, good evening. I'm a senior at Nequa. My name is Victoria. I actually did a research competition my junior year of high school, and I did enjoy it. It was definitely a different learning experience, but it is a little intimidating at first. So I was wondering, will this be the type of class that requires like prereqs before, or will it be mostly beginner friendly?
It would be very beginner friendly. Yeah, so that was something we had a lot of conversation about last time, was a little bit of how much research kind of knowledge we expect students to have. And what we came around was it's probably going to be mixed, right? To have some opportunities to teach them those skills. So one of the things that we want to talk about is how to do that, but definitely we've already identified that as something that's going to be an important part of getting started.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Miss Jane.
Thank you for all your work with this. I happen to be on the other side, and at North Central College, we just approved dual credits just recently. So we went through the process there, and it's been interesting looking at it from that side, because nationally we're seeing difficulties with reading comprehension, and students need more opportunity to develop their writing composition skills. So I'm very happy to see that 204 is dedicating resources to this. Just a few questions. I also want to add with a caveat for our families, though, that not even if your student takes it doesn't guarantee that that each institution will accept it, right? The institution determines whether those credits would be transferred.
So through the articulation agreement, Illinois articulation agreement, all state schools will take it 100%, no questions asked. Almost all private schools in the state of Illinois also do, not all. Once you get out of the state, then it's a little bit
Right.
looser,
Right.
right? But English 101 is about as kind of boilerplate as you can come, right? So that's one of the things that we love about this. It is among the most transferable classes we can offer.
Yes, and the partnership with COD just makes it that much more easily transferable. Just a few questions. Will our students at 204 have access to COD's library databases? Like in order for them to have the research-based writing that they need to develop at that level, would they have access to those resources?
So through our LMCs, we have a pretty in-depth database available to our students that is similar to what they would find on a College Edu page. I'm very confident with the resources that we have available to our students that they'll have plenty of resources and more to support the activities, not only in the senior inquiry class, but also the dual credit class for English, because we offer a number of them that are available to our students.
Great. And given the teacher shortages that we're seeing, will this be difficult to have teachers to teach this class? Because if you were to teach at COD, you would have to have a master's or above to teach it, and an English degree. How does that apply in our setting?
Yeah, great question. So it's been something that Diane and I have been working on quite a bit. Identifying teachers that are both qualified and excited about the opportunity, right? To get them to do that, right? Because we don't want to be in too big a position, especially with something new, of forcing people into it either, right? So we've been working in partnership with COD to have teachers essentially share their transcripts, and we do have teachers identified at each of the 3 high schools that are already pre-approved by the College Edu page for next year. Was really our starting point. Okay. Is that it's one of the hurdles that we have, one of the barriers that we have with all dual credit classes is that certification piece. That our teachers are eminently able. It's just a matter of getting sort of the blessing through COD and the Higher Learning Commission.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I know most of our teachers have a master's, if not multiple masters, which is extraordinary. And our students benefit from that. My last question is with regards to the senior inquiry course. I love the concept of it. This will be interdisciplinary in nature, correct? Like it will be very interdisciplinary. So could you just walk me through like how it would be, like the operation, like if you couldn't operationalize it for me, like a student puts in a proposal, or a student has to create a group and put in a proposal. How does that work?
So we have started to work with our teachers, just what could that process look like
Yeah.
for the year? We have a few frameworks that will kind of help set up the course and helping students through that initial process, working through it as a group so they can kind of see the design thinking process as they go through that. There's some really good processes out there. Stanford has a really good one for design thinking that walks them through the empathy stage all the way through to design and then ultimately launching your product to an authentic audience. John Spencer has a really good resource that's really kid-friendly and student-friendly and teacher-friendly. He has a great book that we provided all of our staff to go through that process and some really good examples to get kids thinking, really digesting, a lot of feedback, so it's not just a one and done, it's constant iteration, and talking about that business process, and then ultimately launching into some type of authentic audience and process.
Yeah, that's great. So you would sign up for the course, and then you would communicate with whoever else signed up for that course, and together you would come up with your idea. It wouldn't be prior to signing up. Or you're entertaining that idea.
We're still working out some of those details. We're pretty confident that the final product of this will be more individual than group. And to really allow kids to dig into something that they're passionate about, maybe not kind of pin them into something that someone else is passionate about, right? So there's some flexibilities in there,
Yeah.
right? And if there's a kind of a partnership that wants to get after something, we can kind of talk about that. We want to be really, really flexible. But the intentionality in here is to find something that you as an individual are passionate about, and really that's the driver.
So similar to like a thesis, kind
Like
of,
a
very beginning level exploratory. Oh, I love it. Okay, thank you so much. That's it.
If I just may for this, I see it as there's a thing called iSearch. I used to do it as an elementary teacher, where the students select the topic, and it's on steroids to become this, what you're talking about, because the student is really selecting, finding out what he or she really wants to delve into, rather than being told you're going to do a topic on X, Y, or Z.
Okay.
And then from that point forward, the student working with the teacher is really going to examine what are the things that I want to do in order to study this topic. And so it truly is an opportunity for the student to find something that he or she is interested in and is going to spend a whole semester examining.
Thank you.
Ms. Gantz.
Thank you guys, honestly, for this wonderful presentation. I just have a couple quick questions, or really just one. For the dual credit, as you're talking about teachers collaborating on, the curriculum itself, is it COD teachers and 204 teachers collaborating together to create it?
Yeah, so we have been working, Diane and I and the other department chairs have been working with their dean to and they laid out a framework. Once we kind of start wrapping our head around it and get our teachers to start kind of putting some of the pieces on the puzzle board, that'll be a good time for us to kind of check in with them to say, hey, we're on the right track here. And then once we're kind of closer, then there'll be some collaborative time. It gets a little bit better once you're doing it to start sharing ideas, right? So it's a little bit more of a partnership than a one-way, like, here, let me kind of show you how it's done.
Right.
So we're really looking forward to the partnership with College of DuPage and really kind of coming at it as a marriage of equals, right?
Absolutely. No, I love that. And I love that this is a class that you do not have to be, an AP or honors student previously in English to take. I think it's an amazing opportunity for students like you were all saying that wouldn't normally have this kind of college readiness accessibility. So I absolutely love the direction you're heading with that. And senior inquiry is something that I'm very excited to see as it's continuing to kind of grow. Just the idea of encouraging a student to use their own minds and decide what they're really interested and passionate about, and kind of helping to feed that passion and direct them into delving deep. So I am very excited to see that. So honestly, thank you guys so much for this presentation and all the hard work you're doing to get this done.
Mr. Karubas.
Slide 7, please. This is something you talked about and was alluded to, but I think when you look at this slide and then you see that we added English, you can see that it, like, this one doesn't belong kind of scenario where we've gone back to the basics and we're saying, look, we just want you to have an ability to get dual credit in English. And so I can easily relate to why that would be eminently more transferable than architectural drafting at a college that's not going to offer that. So I applaud you for that focus. So we're offering a dual credit that's more useful, that is probably more impactful. And so putting English on this list, gets me excited about what you guys are going to bring next. And, depending on our usage on some of these, if attendance isn't large on some of these, we might need to take some off the table as well. So I don't want to keep adding things that we're not using, but if we add a class and dedicate resources to it, and then they get frustrated when they can't transfer it, are we really doing the justice to the system? So I love what you've done, and I look forward to the next iteration on that slide. Going back to my cost theme tonight, I guess. I asked a question earlier about kind of what's this going to cost? Because we're adding a service. The public school system, the government resources are being dedicated. So is this a big burden? Is it a small burden? And I asked this prior to the meeting. Superintendent responded, so I don't want to just dump it on you. But what's the cost of adding the dual credit course generally?
So I gave him all his answers. Don't worry about it. So Brian and I spent some time on this. So really, the English is a very close to zero, right? Because every senior takes English. So this is just another option, right? One of the questions was, well, is there something coming out? The answer is not now. But we're going to kind of see how this plays out, and if there are some things you talked about, if it impacts enrollment in adverse ways, then those are conversations that we're preparing already to have, right? So that the senior inquiry class, we don't think so, right? Because we're taking a senior elective, we're taking this one instead of something else, right? So, that one's a little bit more of an unknown, truth be told, right?
Sure.
But because we're hopeful that maybe there's some kids who decide not to leave school early. And so does that increase then a little bit? Well, maybe, but is it at the marginal rate of a full section? We don't know, right? So that's where some of the math is uncertain, right? The direct costs on both of these are we budgeted for both some money for resources, though I don't think it's going to be all that much, truth be told. And then there's time to get teachers, get subs in classrooms and get teachers out there. And that's one of the line items we put in the response that Dr. Talley sent you earlier, to give them time to collaborate and learn together and to make a plan.
Perfect. Thank you. That's it.
Mr. Rising.
So just for clarification, before I even ask my questions, we're not removing any English courses, correct?
Correct.
Okay. With the dual credit English, what I'm trying to understand, not only as a board member but as a parent, is, and there was a mention, an AP English 4 is very heavy in composition and literature. What I heard you say is there's more of a focus on composition and writing, or at least a more of an equal comparison. My assumption here, and Victoria had asked the question wonderfully, and I'm glad she did, regarding the senior inquiry, but my concern with the dual credit English is that typically going to be an AP English 3 student that is then taking the dual credit English? Is that the assumption there? Or could it be, and here's my concern. The students aren't going to understand, And my concern is the guidance counselors aren't gonna understand and make the appropriate recommendation for the student, and then the student is gonna have to do some self-reflection of what they'd prefer to go into, and understand the differences between a senior AP English 4 and a dual credit English. Because there is some lack of skills, as Ms. Jane mentioned, whether it's retention or it's writing. So I just want to make sure that we're setting up the student for the most success, number one, and number two, we're directing them in the area that they believe that they need to focus their skills on or where their interests are. And I don't know if you could talk to that briefly, but I gotta tell you, if I'm a student or a parent, I'm beating my head against the wall of which direction I should go. So could you address that really quick for me? I don't know if it's really quick to answer, but.
Yeah, so I can give you an answer to any length that you'd like, but
Well, you can keep it a minute or less
yeah,
if you wanted to.
So the kind of the fundamental part of this is no, we're certainly will allow kids that took the AP classes a junior to enroll. The target for this class is not that kid, because is the kid who's in our college prep English class, who is meeting, exceeding state standards on our assessments and those kinds of things. They are college ready. As a senior, we're going to give them a college English experience. So that's the kid that we're looking for. Are we going to say you took this AP language class, so you're banned? No, we're not going to do that. Because the truth is, there are some number of kids who take that class, and when they're enrolling, they're not sure if they're going to earn credit or not, right? Because they haven't taken the assessment yet, right? So we're going to allow them to do some reflection too. Maybe an answer to a bigger question, Mr. Rising, is it's incumbent on us, and we talked about a little bit with the senior inquiry class, but it's for all of our new classes, is to really create, lack of a better word, a marketing plan, right? So we can talk to how are we going to have our junior teachers talk to the kids, how are we going to communicate with the counselors, how are we going to get that into the course book, all in those ways that make sense to everyone.
Okay.
I will confess the hardest group to communicate with, especially as they become sophomores and juniors making upperclassmen decisions, are their parents. Because we're not going to send out a Connect 204 about the different English selection. It's just that no one would read it.
Well,
yeah. But I mean, it's a valid point. So we use the course book to do that, right? And then we have a junior night, we have a senior night, we have parent-teacher conferences, we have all of those ways to kind of get that information out. We send things out through during the course selection process. We have handouts, all those kinds of things, and a lot of those things hit home, right? But not all of them. So that's always a piece that is something that we're striving to get better at.
And I hope it is well explained, or maybe even, I hate to put this burden on the department chairs in English, but maybe that is a conversation that is had with juniors, so they can understand. Because I got to be honest, my student who was in AP English 3 and AP English 4, that was just a natural progression, right? That's just what you did. But as a student, and now looking at her, and she didn't benefit out of the AP credit because she went to an out-of-state parochial school, so it really didn't matter if she took an AP or not. But she might have liked that more writing piece in a dual credit versus the AP 4 that she took, So I got to imagine there is some benefits there, even for your AP students, to be in that dual credit if you feel like you need to be stronger in writing before you head off to college. So.
And I'll just add too, because that was I teach AP 3, so that was one of my biggest concerns too. Was how similar is this course going to be towards AP 3, and would they get double the credit or whatnot? But what we kind of focused on is when they go into AP 4, if they do, speaking for Waubonsie, we do lose a lot of students that don't go into AP 4 just because that credit that they earned is for literature, and it's not often transferable to many colleges. Yeah. But also the biggest difference, I do think, for kids deciding is because this will not be an honors class. And so for kids that are worried about GPA and weighted grades, this would not fulfill that because it is not an honors credit. So that was also kind of thinking what kind of student would take this. That was one of the bigger considerations too. And for like messaging, we do meet with all of our counselors before we go into any type of registration for the classes, and we do talk to every single student for courses in our own classrooms for English and for all of them, just so they do know the difference, because especially as a junior teacher, when you're talking about the senior classes, we have so many choices that we do spend almost a whole period talking about the different types of choices for them, so this would just be another one to add that clarification to too.
And then just really quick, and I know Dr. Talley addressed this and Ms. Jane asked questions on the senior inquiry. Can you give me a profile of that student who would take this class? Like, is it, I mean, I suppose it could be any kid that has an interest, but is it that kid that?
That's the profile.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, you hit it.
Okay. I mean, because I was sitting there thinking, okay, is it a kid that's going to go down the English path, or is a literature nut, or is just, I mean, maybe they just want to dive into a topic more, like you had mentioned, Dr. Talley, and just really kind of want to soak themselves into that. So
Clayton can share with you. He actually did some surveys with students of his right now in his class right now. So what was the problem?
Well, I just wasn't sure in case you were asking what they're going to take. I was like, I don't know. I'd want to take. I'm not sure what they want to take. So I just kind of real quick threw up a Google survey, and I just asked them, what's a topic that interests you enough to pursue it for like a full semester? Because kids are great at asking questions, right? But then like they want the answer and they'll be done.
Right.
Like this kid's gonna have to be like, okay, you got that answer, but that also revealed 3 questions. Which
Yeah.
one are we pursuing now? And like kind of just keep going. You just keep going and have that kind of purpose. I mean, I tried to break them into 3 categories, like academic, authentic, and action. Like some kids want to do like social media in their generation, like how's it affect them? Some want to start a farm. How do you start a farm? Like that would be awesome to
Yeah.
do that. Like, I mean, human behaviors and violence. Some want to do how to, the safety of football helmets. And again, like, what about the safety? Like, run the data, look at the research, figure out, and he wants to maybe design with it. And even in the class, when I started sharing this, another girl was like, that'd be cool to engineer. I'm in STEM. I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're talking about. You know, and there were some that just literally wanted to know, like, ancient civilizations. Like, some want to know the history of Naperville. Like, why are we here? I'm like, that would be, I mean, as a teacher, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
To like just see, and I'm also like, it's overwhelming, but an excellent opportunity, like just chase this down.
Yeah.
Just like, it's a lot of chasing. And that's gonna be the fun part is networking all the different pieces, like, humility. I'm not gonna know everything, so I gotta.
I mean, it's great because these students could tap into something they didn't even realize that they had
absolutely.
doing this, yeah. Okay, thanks.
Ms. Deming.
So interesting, because I come at a little bit different from Board Member Rising. This question of dual credit has been something that I was talking to our previous administration about. Kathy Pease, I sat down a number of times trying to understand our challenges with College of DuPage and dual credit, and chatted with Dr. Talley very briefly when he began. I am extremely excited to see the potential for us with dual credit. I am also in higher education, not so much on the academic side, a little bit more on the administration side, but I sit at my community college, and I mentioned before, watch students who walk away with their associate's degree before they walk away with their high school degree. Great, obviously, for many of those students are going to stay in Illinois, and the articulation agreements that are done, and they're able to have that same particular course to transfer to U of I, to transfer to ISU, and they've already gotten that same English course because it's the same number from the same, from whatever community college that they're at, if those articulation agreements are done. So I am extremely excited to see the potential and can't wait to see if we are going to be able to do this particular, the same thing with some of our other courses. So that's the begin, my statement. A couple of questions that I do have. Let's see, you answered one of them. The 1101 and 1102 are part of an articulation agreement. Let's see. Hold on for me just a minute. That's what. Are we making any headway with any other particular core courses? I was so surprised to see slide 7, as Member Greer was pointing out. I had no idea that we had this many, because I just knew that there had been more challenges on the core curriculum side. Any discussions on any of our other core courses?
So we're always kind of thinking, right? We don't have nothing to share with you tonight. You know, a lot of that kind of, it really does. The cart here is teacher certification, and we got to put that before the horse,
Sure.
right? So that piece is always sort of in the offing. And then kind of finding that balance in what are the areas where there are kind of opportunities, right? So there's a lot of places where our students are already earning college credit in our core areas. You know, it's very underrepresented on this slide because it's really wildly overrepresented on the AP side, right? So kids are earning college credit in a variety of different ways. What we found in this was an opportunity for a big pocket of kids, right? To get college credit in a way that maybe they wouldn't have been able to before. So those are the opportunities that we're pursuing, trying to find those places where we overlap. It's maybe kind of putting, you know, too much solution on a single problem, right? So a little bit of that too. So trying to find where are those real opportunities. So we love our anatomy and physiology class. That's in our sciences, very transferable. We love all of these classes on here because a lot of them are capstones for our pathways, right? Kids that are looking for things in, you know, in like going straight into career and tech ed, right? Or looking for something in one of these areas. Our education pathway is really kind of tied to our Grow Your Own program, right? So a lot of these have real meaning for some of our kids. But looking at those opportunities to really make big changes in the number of college credits that kids earn are something we're always interested in.
Is there for the student, is there a cost for them to do dual? Nope. So those opportunities can be open for some students who may take AP courses, but for, you know, financial reasons may not even take the test because AP courses or AP testing is expensive.
Now, there are some students who may feel they have that need and don't qualify, but for students that are in our fee waiver program, those fees are wildly significantly reduced. They're not free, but they are as close to free as we can make them.
Okay.
So that it would, for what you can earn, what you can potentially earn, you know, which is $1,000 worth of credit, I think it costs $15 or $20 for a kid to take an AP test if you are in the fee waiver program.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. And then I don't want to open up a can of worms, and I'm just wondering, do we see down the road in the future any dual enrollment type of conversations or not?
So
dual enrollment means
we're here for English tonight. That's something we can certainly
I'm just
talk about
asking,
down
I'm
the
just
road.
wondering.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Fosdick.
Okay, this is very exciting. As an English 101 teacher, I find this very interesting, and I do have a couple questions because that is my experience, is teaching essentially what is English 101. It's given different names and titles everywhere else. But I do have a couple questions. So, because I've experienced teaching in a couple different institutions. In one of those places, all composition classes had the same textbook, had the same syllabus, had the same assignments. In my most recent place of teaching, we had, you know, on slide 8 here, the model syllabus as a suggestion, and then each instructor created their own syllabus. You could copy that if you wished, or you could create your own, and then provide your own text and your own assignments, etc. So the course varied wildly depending on which instructor you had. So what are we doing here?
So here's let's say that College DuPage is somewhere in between. But what we will come to is our teachers are all at the 3 schools, and that the individual teachers at each of the schools will be delivering the 204 version of that class, right? So it may vary, not wildly, it may vary from what the experience would be if you took it a year later on campus at the College DuPage, but it will not vary from if you take it at Waubonsie or Neuqua.
Okay.
Right, so, so we are gonna find where did their, these are the things that they need, right? It's a little tighter than your second example.
Yeah.
Right, there's kind of 6 or 7 or 8 things that in each course that you kind of have to, like, objectives, right? So those are some of the things that are on the syllabus. There are like 7 or 8 objectives in each class.
Okay.
How you get at them, there is a good deal of freedom for the COD staff. Our job is to lead them through to get to what's the 204 version of that, and we're all going to do that.
Okay. So we should expect the students to have the same text. So for example, if you have AP3, no matter what school you go to, you're going to read this or you're going to do this. And how each teacher approaches it is different, but you have the same basic text and fundamentals. Is that,
Yep.
am I understanding correctly? Okay, great. What, like, group of students, is there any concern for the group of students who are on the cusp of taking AP3 and see freshman or sophomore year rather than junior year or later? Wait, why would I take a class I could take a test and maybe get credit that I have to pay for? Instead of next year, I could just take this dual credit class and definitely get credit that I don't have to pay for. What group of students is that? Is that a substantial group of students based on what the information you have right now, or do you suspect that to be a small group of students?
We don't know.
You know, okay.
You know, I think it'll a little bit will depend on how well this kind of takes off, right?
Yeah.
And then a little bit of I think too there's a little bit of an AP culture, right? That we kind of have to kind of and some kids are going to take AP just because it's
no
what I
matter
do,
what.
right?
Yeah.
And it's the honors credit and some of those pieces that go along with that. So are there a group of kids that would kind of look at, as they create their 4-year plan and alter that? Maybe. I think anytime you kind of throw another variable in the equation, that's probably going to happen, right? So what we don't know who that would be. There's not this big group of AP kids banging on the door saying, "Hey, why did I get this opportunity?" But we are excited that it gives kids what we love. The word we use a lot is options, right? It gives kids more options, allows them to craft their own path in a way that's more unique to them, right? And in some ways that are super, kind of unordinary, like the senior inquiry class, which is amazing. In some ways that are kind of more inside the box, which is this dual credit. But the more options we can give kids in a responsible way, right, the better off we can put our kids, at advantage.
Okay. Like I said, I agree. I'm excited that this is going to potentially expand options for kids who may not have previously had an option for this, especially. I think that's great. I just don't want to discourage kids from taking, I know that we've all been really pleased to see our numbers in AP classes grow, and kids really push themselves to challenge that too. So I just was curious about that balance between the two. And then I am really excited about the senior inquiry class. It sounds awesome. It sounds so fun. I have a question, Mr. Figge. So for example, you said you're one half of the teachers at Equa. Is it a team-taught class?
Yeah,
are we balancing like a sciences and a humanities teacher together to do this so we can cover all the bases, or?
I'm not sure. I know at Nico we're doing a social studies teacher and a science teacher for the first round.
Cool.
And then we keep doing the iteration.
Actually, a business teacher.
That's right. She's business.
Sorry.
We're social. There you go.
Yeah. So it was a little bit different, mixed at each school, and some of that was intentional. We didn't want it to be like we're only kind of focusing on these 2 departments, right? So we really looked at teachers who had a passion for this and really wanted to get a variety of teachers in the development group. So we have business teachers and social studies teachers and science teachers, and I think that's it. But yeah, so we have teachers from a bunch of different departments coming in to really look at that open-ended piece.
All right. I can't wait to see how it develops. Thanks.
So thank you very much. I think it's very important to continue to look at opportunities to take our district to the future, and these offerings are definitely moving us in a direction that is very positive and interesting for our students. So these classes are only for seniors, though?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so the timeline that you presented has students potentially, if everything gets approved, attending in August next year. When do they sign up for classes? So you're going to have to market them before everything is lined
Yeah,
up.
so we actually start the process of publishing next year's course book in a week and a half. And that's meeting with Diane and her peers and the department chairs from all the different departments. It gets published around Thanksgiving through December. We start doing like parent nights and there's the 8th grade parent night and some other things, and then the teacher recommendations and will come into play. Students select courses in January, right? And then we work on the scheduling and staffing part through the spring, and then the curriculum teams will be doing development during that same time.
So does our timing of our board discussion and approval align with that?
100%.
Okay.
All part of the plan.
All right. Okay, good. All right, I think that was it. Thank you very, very much for all the work that you do. And I was excited about the inquiry class. Like, boy, I want to do all of those, yeah.
Thank you.
We're going to need lots of partners, so
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our last topic is our legislative advocacy and Board of Education update, and we do have Dr. Talley's favorite things to talk about, our IASB resolutions, and I will turn it over to Ms. Fosdick.
All right, so there are only 5 this year, and I know everybody got an email with the list of them and the full explanation. I think President Donahue and Dr. Talley discussed perhaps voting on them as a bundle, unless as a board member has a specific request to pull one out and discuss it. I was asked to write a little summary of each one. If you like, I can read that aloud, unless people feel like they really have a good
I think for the public,
Okay.
I thought it would be good.
Sure.
We're not going to vote on them tonight, though. We're just discussing them, and then we'll decide at the next one if everybody can, if we need to bundle them or break them apart or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds good. The first resolution proposal is from Pleasantdale School District 107 about industrial construction. Pleasantdale School District wrote a resolution saying IASB should support and encourage legislation that prohibits construction of industrial facilities near schools. They argued that industrial facilities negatively affect health and safety, learning outcomes, and learning environments. The Resolutions Committee discussed how industrial construction does not affect most member districts and that small communities that depend on income from industry would be harmed. The Resolutions Committee recommends do not adopt this resolution.
Anybody have any comments? I think what you'll just go through them all, and if anyone has a comment, just bring it up. Otherwise, we're going to move forward to the next one.
Sounds good. All right, the second proposed resolution is from Homer Community, I think, Consolidated School District, 33C, about school resource officer funding. Homer asks that IASB request that Illinois legislature consider legislation that provides educational funding to all school districts to offset the cost of SROs. They argue that the presence of a trained SRO makes schools safer, particularly in light of increased school shootings, and that often districts simply cannot afford SROs. The Resolutions Committee agreed that SROs help protect children and that there should be funding to help offset the cost. The Resolutions Committee recommends do adopt.
I found it interesting, just as a side note, that this district is a Tier 3 district. Just found interesting, and they want the state to pick up the cost for SROs. I mean, it's a position, doesn't mean it's ever gonna come up at the state level, but I found it interesting that a Tier 3 district threw that out there, so just thought I'd add that. Okay, next.
Any others? Yes.
I was just surprised that there was no, and maybe this is for a later comment, but there was no indication of specific identification of where that SRO would come from, where that SRO would come from. So I just found that interesting.
Maybe that's the first step of the next. Yeah, you never know.
No, do not go there, yeah.
All right, the third is about bus driver regulations from Mercer County School District 404. Mercer County School District wants IASB to support changes in federal and state legislation to return bus driver licensing requirements and trainer liability to previous levels before COVID, to allow local training and testing of drivers, and to increase state transportation reimbursement to 100%.
I would like,
There's still more.
well, okay.
Mercer County argues that in the midst of a nationwide bus driver shortage, making licensing requirements and liability more difficult rather than less exacerbates the problem. Additionally, because the state requires districts to bus students more than 1.5 miles from their school, it should pay 100% of transportation costs to do so. The resolution committee agrees and says do adopt. Mr. Rising?
Yeah, good luck. Good luck getting 100%. I would love if Ron could give us his synopsis of this, just his totally unbiased synopsis, if he takes a look at this.
I can have him do that. It is interesting. On Friday, I was over at the transportation depot and learned some more things about the license that our bus drivers, the CDL license, and I don't know how many people understand this, but really it's to become a bus driver, you have to pass the same license as if you are driving a truck across the country.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting license, because what our bus drivers are doing is not the same type of thing.
And I'll take it one step further. There is only a certain amount of spots for testing that they have open per day at those facilities, and they give the preferential treatment to, even though they're all CDL, they give the treatment to the 18-wheeler drivers than they do the school bus drivers. So they're often the second tier, and they don't get as much attention. So that further exacerbates getting the drivers certified. So yeah, it's a problem. But I'd love to get Ron's thoughts on it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, in the write-up that it talked about who can provide that training too. It was very restrictive, and I sounded almost like it's a sweetheart deal for these training companies.
They give it to, or they give it to the bus companies. Bus companies are making money off of training as well.
Right.
And it's organized and coordinated through the ROEs, which is,
So it was an interesting write-up, like things I didn't know. So, but that's also interesting, your input that you got from the event.
Yeah, this one had a lot of explanation, so to distill it down was, I'm sure I left pieces out that could be useful. So it is, if you have other questions, reading through it is helpful because there is quite a bit in there. All right, the next one is employment history review from Unity Point School District 140. Unity Point School District would like IASB to ask Illinois legislative body to use DCFS and CANTS, which is Child Abuse and Neglect Tracking System, as a means to fulfill the employment history review of Faith's Law, which requires districts to contact employers listed in the employment history review to conduct a review of sexual misconduct allegations. Unity Point argues that this approach to hiring is time-consuming and potentially financially limiting because of a need for increased personnel, and could leave districts vulnerable to lawsuits because of decisions made by individuals. They say that using DCFS and CANTS, it uses an already established system, potentially alleviating some of these issues. The Resolutions Committee agrees that finding a way to help districts implement Faith's Law is very important, but does not think this is the way to do it. The Resolutions Committee says do not adopt. Questions or comments? Oh. All right, so these are the 5. Oh, sorry, there's one more. Alternative Safe School Funding from Geneseo. Does anyone know how that's how you say it? Geneseo Community United School District 228. Geneseo wants IASB to advocate for additional funding from the state for regional alternative safe schools to allow for an elementary appropriate program. More funding and approved certification plans for board-certified behavior analysts, and more flexibility regarding student discipline to help local districts provide the safest learning environment possible. They would also like state legislative body to review State Bill 100, Senate Bill 100, to allow for more local control as it relates to student discipline. Geneseo argues that local districts are not equipped to handle the increase in immature and aggressive behavior post-COVID, particularly in elementary and middle schools, despite best efforts. The Resolutions Committee discussed the IASB position statement 2.33 that already says IASB will use evidence-based funding to support funding for alternative schools. Members also discussed a review of Senate Bill 100, which encouraged limiting suspensions and expulsions, and created a parent-teacher advisory committee to develop policy guidelines with the school board on student discipline. The Resolutions Committee says do not adopt. Other questions or comments on that last one? All right, so these are the 5. There's also, for your own reading, for that, the Resolutions Committee says do not present. So if you're interested in reading through those or have questions, please do so, and I guess send them along. But from my understanding, these have a very small chance of being passed.
Yeah, I think if
Delegate
the
Assembly.
resolution committee didn't bring them out, or it's extremely difficult for that to be overcome.
If they did, somebody could ask for a vote at the resolution, and it would need like 75% to even then have a vote on one of these. So the likelihood of it happening
It's very small.
slim to none, yeah.
So just to clarify, the do not adopt in the presented presented bills versus the do not present is based on committee members, like a number of that were not for it or were against the bill?
Yeah.
Pretty much, so it's a numbers game, okay.
Yeah, so every division has a resolution committee representative, and then they all meet and discuss, and then they make their recommendations. And they also have legal there, they have, the legal department of IASB that's there and stuff like that. So, I mean, there's some good discussions and thought that goes into it, but.
Yeah.
The other thing you should look at is the nominating committee report for the officer slate that will be voted on at the delegate assembly at the AAA conference. And look over that. I don't know if that's something we officially need to vote on at the next meeting.
It is a vote you will have to take, a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the nominating committee's recommendations. There could be somebody that gets nominated from the floor, but the chances of that person getting elected are, again, slim to none, because usually the resolutions person from each board is going there with a thumbs up, thumbs down on the nominating committee's recommendations. So, we probably should just have a open discussion that we support the recommendation. I don't think we need to necessarily take a vote. Well, actually, no, we probably do.
No, we did, yeah, we did vote.
We probably do, because it's a vote you're gonna have to take.
Yeah,
so.
but it's not a vote that Michelle has to call, like we just.
Okay.
Mark, I did have a quick question. So on the ones that, I can't remember, on the ones that are do not present, so like the 203 one,
On EV buses back when they did it, or is it?
No,
there's
the
one right now.
203
Oh,
one
is there?
now, and the IASB
An idea of
indicated,
funding.
Oh,
don't
yeah.
present because they agree with the funding, but there was a time limit in there. Do they ever go back? So since 203, IASB was, the resolutions committee was concerned about the time limit. Could 203 go back and redo this and resubmit it?
Yeah.
And could the resolutions committee decide to bring it, or is it over now?
No, they can always bring it back
Okay.
and reword it, yeah.
Okay.
We were
Yeah.
able to amend it when I went with Natasha on the spot.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if they changed.
That, you know, there was,
But yours wasn't being considered to do not present, though, was it? It wasn't.
They were just right before they were going to give their vote. There was discussion before that. So right after we presented, that was the bill about the zero tolerance on giving zeros, basically. That we wanted to give students the opportunity to redo their work and get some points out of their work. And so there was discussion about the use of some of our terms, and so they asked us, would you feel comfortable amending the language? Because we think you would get more support out of that. So we were able to amend that there, so I don't know. I don't know what the process is
if
now.
they get that sense, they will ask that question, because even last year with 203's EV bus resolution that they put forward, they asked them if they would make other considerations and change the language, and 203 said, no, we want the language as it is. So they may or may not have asked them, but they can go back next year and rewrite that proposal. Yeah.
But for this year, they're kind of done unless they want to bring it up on the floor at
It
the
won't.
conference,
And
and
it won't happen.
then you need 75% to, yeah.
Which that's a new change too. So.
So at the next meeting, we'll decide whether we're going to vote on this as a bundle, one bundle, or if we need to break any of them apart. So if we have different views on the recommendations, then we'll break them apart. But, and then we'll also vote on the representative to vote for, on behalf of our board at the conference. Yeah. Yeah.
An alternative representative, maybe?
Oh, no, well, we can nominate.
Just in case.
Yeah,
An alternative?
yeah.
That makes sense.
So, all right, any other questions or comments or thoughts? Otherwise, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, we're adjourned.